Well, good morning everybody. Welcome to Stockradar Stocks on the Move for another week. Today's date is the 2nd of November 2023. My name is Richard Lee and I manage the stockradar.com.au website for you. Okay, difficult market. Pressure continues down this week with many stocks continuing their downward spiral. However, there's one section of the market I want to talk about and focus on today, and it's a special group of stocks showing some good resilience at the moment. The stock market challenge is always to find those right stocks, and our trade plan is usually the best source of information to locate those stocks. So remember, know why you buy and you'll know what to buy. It's very, very simple, okay? Right, firstly, let's get to the top 10 and see what they're looking like at the moment. Okay, so firstly we've got Magellan up the top there, Stanmore, a new entry there. Car sales is doing well. Stockradar is also doing very well at the moment, and Paladin on the uranium side, and then some of the other stocks there. Promedic is struggling a little bit, but still holding its eyes. Aristocrat, a couple of indices there, and also Insurance Australia Group. So those insurance stocks aren't doing too badly either. Okay, so let's firstly get to the overseas markets. And we'll look at the Dow Jones Industrial Average. Pressure is still down here. You can still see this here. We've had a good rally this week, but still hasn't really put much of a dent in the downward move that we're getting here. So the pressure still remains down. Volume sort of middling there, but still, as the lower highs, lower lows continue, we watch for lower levels there. Similar to the S&P 500. It had that rally, couldn't get through resistance, it's now falling down through horizontal supports, trend lines, moving averages, so things aren't looking that good, and there's probably a little bit more selling evident in the S&P, which is a slightly broader index, but so it's perhaps not looking quite so good. We're probably looking down towards these lower levels at the moment. Okay, Nasdaq again, it's also tumbled a little bit. It's fallen through a bit of support here, which I would have expected to hold. We've got a series of lower highs and lower lows here pushing this index down, and again a bit of volume showing here. So the pressure is still down over there at the moment. Okay, so that's the indices. Looking at the commodities, copper, well, there's been no change here for quite some time. It just can't. It keeps bumping into this little trend line and getting lower and lower and lower. And the sellers are certainly in control of this commodity at the moment. So that's a downward spiral. Gold, once again, we're back up here testing it. Couldn't get through this week so far. It's a big resistance level there. I guess when it does break, if it does break, we get a good run there. But for the moment, the jury remains out. So if there's a good buying push at this level, momentum just holding above zero, so it looks okay, but for the moment, R1 stays intact. And Brent crude, well, uncertainty there, a lot of influences going on there, economies and wars and all sorts of things there, so it's a little bit volatile, a little bit uncertain at the moment. We did come off the lows around $70, but we really haven't made much gain past the $90 area there. So Brent crude is still pretty difficult to sort of track as to what it's going to do at the moment. So we're sort of really out of most of those stocks. There's a couple of stocks there like Woodside and Santos that are starting to look interesting and starting to test some higher levels. So we have to watch those levels. But for the moment, the crude isn't really giving us much guide there at this stage. Okay, S&P ASX 200 index, our index. Okay, well, again, we're failing a bit. We've had a little bit of a rally this week. Can't really get much traction here. The pressure's got to still be down, lower high here, lower low there. So we're probably still looking for this level down here for the moment, working its way back to the bottom of the trading range. And then we would look for some buying to come back in again. So for the moment, we look for a little bit more easing, maybe another few hundred points down there. Okay, so that's the ASX 200. Okay, now if we just go to this, look at the stock pick count at the moment, it's also down 8 this week, so we lost a lot of stocks this week, so it's down to 20 of 184. That's ETFs and ASX stocks. So if we just go to the stocks, there are only 12 stocks out of 161 that have valid trends, which tells a pretty big story at the moment. Okay, be very careful, preserve capital, all this sort of thing at the moment. And generally, even with our portfolios now, we're pretty well getting right out of the market and staying pretty neutral. So that's really the situation. As this market continues to track sideways, and it's very difficult. And most stocks have been going down. So the breadth there is very bad. And we've got 8 ETF picks there of 23. There's a couple of new ones in there. Bear came in there, I think, a week or so ago. Okay, so now let's get to some stocks. I want to talk to you a little bit about this week. That's a group of resilient stocks, and I've been looking at this stock for a while, and this is BHP. And some of these miners are looking fairly they're doing pretty well, and so there's some resilient demand showing that they don't want to go down with the rest of the market. They're holding up pretty well, so I'm keeping an eye on this sector. We've got BHP is now trend intensity rating of +1. It's got some very, very solid support and has done all year here, all the way across here at $43. It can't eke out a rally yet, but it's not falling down. It's holding this uptrend line here. So we sort of still think this looks like the pent-up energy is on the upside. So, it's got to break beforehand before we get too convinced of it. But the pattern here, the trading pattern here is one of bullishness. So keep an eye on BHP because I still think it's worth watching. Be patient because it hasn't happened yet, but keep an eye on it. Rio Tinto is just starting to show a little bit of a spark of interest again. Started to take out these recent highs here and suggesting we may look to test this R2 again. So it's a constructive picture again without having broken up. Okay, trend intensity rating is +1, so it's neutral and ready, but nothing has really happened. And we look down here for both BHP and Rio. There wasn't a lot here. The volume is actually sort of declining, which often happens in these sideways patterns if the market's still holding a valid sort of bias towards the upside. It means there's no real selling occurring at the moment, which is a good sign. And momentum's pretty well neutral there, just a flat fraction above zero, but nothing much to get too excited about at the moment. So again, worth watching these stocks, these commodity stocks, looking very interesting. Iron ore still holding good gains, and as Fortescue says as well, it's up testing that big high as well. Which it has tracked below for 18 months now, and it's round about the $23 level. Okay, so this is sort of really an interesting picture here where, some people might prefer to take a buy here at this level here because of this resistance, but we still have a bit of resistance up here to get through ultimately. So if you're a bit on the aggressive side, you might like to look at this area here at R1, or you might be conservative, you might wait till the R2. It's up to you. As long as you work with stops in both situations, you should be okay. And again, we've got this picture of quietness, it's like calm before the storm, and also the momentum index is neutral there. So there's three big miners showing similar sort of pictures of pent-up energy, neutral sort of status in the volume and the momentum front. There's no real action happening there. Everybody's sort of waiting and watching. So, but I certainly think it's worth keeping an eye on because I still think the bias is probably up on these stocks for the moment. Okay, so let's go down to perhaps the smaller end of this area. Champion Iron has also been an interesting stock, which again, we've got this sort of upward bias here over the last couple of years. We've got a resistance area here, which is fairly clear. It's up at around $7.84, so actually around about $8 the highs. But we've got a good rally happening here. We've got some good volume here. If I just kick this up a little bit, you can see the volume is looking a little bit better of late. And momentum is just hitting the neutral level. So the bias is starting to swing. Still trend intensity rating of -2. The bias is starting to swing higher. It certainly looks like it's about to have a shot at those highs at $8. So Champion Iron, again, one to watch. We've got this little slight bias of upward trend in the lows there, which is a good sign for this stock. Okay, and the next one I want to go to is one we've been looking at for a while. We've been watching this little battle go on, and it's been quite an intriguing little battle. And again, the last couple of weeks, we're seeing it just a real stalemate again. We've had a little break up here, as if it was going to go and attack this one, but all of a sudden we've got this 2-week stalemate hitting the stock. Volume hasn't really told us much at this stage. Momentum is ticking above zero, starting to get a little bit of life in it there. So again, we've got this picture of cautious bullishness. If that's the way I can explain it to you, because they look like they want to go, but they just can't go. And when I see this 2-week stalemate, it was hardly any movement here. It's unusual for this stock to be doing that. So as I said, it really is the calm before the storm, and a little bit of no volume here. So that's those main stocks, the iron ore stocks, the big commodity stocks. The other stock I want to go into here, and in my newsletter this week, I'm going to talk a little bit about the newsletter later on trading tactics. The newsletter came out yesterday, and it had a whole new table there on key lows, because the market's getting knocked about a minute, and a lot of these stocks are coming back to key low areas, which we can start looking at and watching for opportunities that are going to come up, because the market will turn, as it always does at some stage. It's not every stock, but one by one it'll occur. Now look here at South 32. Which is again in that commodity area again. It's had a tough time, the base commodities more than anything. And we've got the high up here at 530. It's now to come down to around 350, 340, and it's just holding here. Now this represents about a 50% correction to the last upward move, and we've also got a bit of support coming through here at around about this 350 level. So all of a sudden we seem to have stopped here, which is probably a good sign. So I'm looking for kilo. When I look for a kilo, I look for the market, I look for previous support, which is good. I look for the market to stop, the buyers start to hold the price up, volume increases, and that means there's more buying going on, absorbing the selling, stopping the price falling, and that's good. And that's what seems to be happening here. Let me just get this in. I'm not interested in momentum at this stage with the kilos. I'm only interested really in volume. So just to have a look at this one here. So firstly, I've got, we assess the possibility of this being a kilo turning point. So we start with this point here, which often happens at key lows. As long as we work with the stop, this can be a relatively low risk trade. So we look at this, what's happening here. Depending on what you want to do as far as looking for a signal for it, it's really just pottering along here. We've got some very good volume, which means there's good buying and good selling, and as it's going sideways, it's sort of a little bit in a state of flux at the moment, not knowing which way to go. But it's a good sign that we're at a key low and we are being supported. So we're just a little bit of a spark to signal this might start turning back up. As always with key lows, you've usually got a fairly low trend intensity rating of -7. Which will probably turn, with my conservative approach of looking for a trend reversal to bounce off this one. It's a little bit different because I'm looking for the key low support, and that often happens there. So it's something that you can look at. And there's a lot noted down here. Peak volume, such as we saw there. This shows selling, but there must be enough buying to soak up the selling. If the price stops falling, that's positive. So certainly worth looking at South 32 at this level here. There seems to be interesting things occurring there. So keep an eye on that one. That's really what most of the stocks I've got for today. The only other stocks I would mention to you really is I mentioned to you Stockradar in the opening comments. It's up in the top 10, looking very interesting, showing some very good independent strength compared to the other markets. It had a very bad quarter last quarter. It's had a good quarter this quarter. Things may turn around, but it did take its punishment, reduced the dividend, which is a very smart thing to do. But it now looks like it might be back on the track and back in demand there. So keep an eye on Stockradar. And the other one is probably Gold Road Resources, which is up on its highs at the moment, looking pretty interesting. It's its all-time high, so if it does get through there, it could be a venturing one. So that's one to go and have a look at on your charts. Okay, so that's really all I've got to you today as far as the stocks go. Okay, so trading tactics. Really this week, I just wanted to go through the newsletter this week because it's an interesting newsletter and it's certainly worth having a look at. So you can take a trial or you can sign up. Either way, you can get access to the newsletter. But it's a little bit about the stock market challenge, and what we're going through at the moment is a very difficult challenge. And I know a lot of people from my end have been pulling back because they're very wary, and this is a fearful thing that happens. But there are opportunities to take. So we really need to manage our minds in this situation because the stock market always challenges, and now it's really challenging is to say, rightio, what are you made of? What can you do? And so the opportunity is there to really look hard at what we're doing and why we're doing it. Okay, so that goes in tandem with what I'm going to talk about in a minute in Radar's rant. But I also go through the stock of the month QBE, and we note the insurers have been doing pretty well. Not only have they had been lots of flyers and floods, but their premiums have been going up and up and up. So they're making a bit of money. So they're doing okay at the moment. The micro view, I look at the health stocks. They've had a terrible time of late, but there is going to be some great opportunities. They're good companies, their demographics are good. It's just there's more sellers than buyers at the moment, and the prices are going down for whatever reason. I don't really mind what reason it is. I just know they're going down, so I'll be keeping an eye on those. I have a look at some of those areas there that you may want to look at for some of those big stocks, like especially CSL, Sonic Healthcare, ResMed, because they've come down an awful long way. Okay, some of the hot stocks today. Super Cheap Autos, another one that's looking towards pushing towards all-time highs, and it's been showing a bit of resilience, especially compared to the other ones like Harvey Norman and JB Hi-Fi, which have been not doing much at all. Then I look also at some hot stocks in the uranium area, which I've been sort of pointing to over the last few weeks. We look at Paladin, which I cover, and the other two there, Bannerman and Stock on Alert, Deep Yellow, I don't actually cover, but I do look into in the newsletter for you to have a little look at those ones there. shares. So there's a good rundown for you in the newsletter. And in my Radars Rant section, I talk about what is the real reason we buy or sell a stock. And it's a really appropriate time to be talking about this because we've got hardly any stocks in our stock account at the moment. We're cashed up to buggery at the moment, and we're just waiting for these opportunities to come. So we've got to find out, do you really know why you really buy a stock? And that's a question you've got to ask yourself because maybe it's not quite what you think sometimes. So that's an interesting article for you to have a look at. Then also I just talk about in the Stockradar tables, the new table I've got is the key low table, and there's plenty of key lows happening at the moment and stock coming down there. Whether they're going to lift off it, we don't know, but we make an assessment and we make a play. But it's certainly worth looking at those stocks for the moment. Okay. So really that's all I've got for you today. I hope you enjoyed that. Keep a check on those miners because they're looking very interesting at the moment. So stay safe, watch your stops, respect your trends, and I'll see you all next week. Thank you.